Mr. Christo, it's such a pleasure having you with us today. I'm Hafa, representing Kiss FM. Thanks for having us.
Hafa, it's an absolute honor to be here. Thank you for taking part and showing an interest. I appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure. And to begin, I'd like to ask you about the new South America tour, especially about the São Paulo concert. What people can expect in terms of set list and performance comparing to your last visit in 2023?
Well, in terms of set lists, we tend to decide quite close to the show what it is we're going to play. So right now, we don't know. But if I can give you any impression of what we've just been playing, which we've just done a month of touring around Europe, it's been a combination of songs from the recorded back catalogue and new songs that we've written together in the last 5 years. And I'd say the split is about 50-50.
50-50. You expect like almost 2-hour concert, an hour and a half?
I think about an hour and a half, yeah.
That's perfect. And you've been with the Sisters of Mercy for quite some time now. And how was your experience with the band changed over the years?
Well, my expectation when I first came to the band was quite different from the reality of the band at that time. So I had some experience of being a fan of the band. I had a couple of albums and a number of their songs I rated very, very highly. I wouldn't say I was a super fan. I didn't follow their progress extremely closely, but I liked their work and I understood and recognized their importance within the canon of alternative music. So when I first came to the band, my expectation was based very much on a previous era. I imagined I was going to be walking into something that was more akin to what the band had been round about, let's say, the Vision Thing era. But of course, this was 16 years later and a lot had changed. So firstly, my expectation was quite different from the reality of what I walked into in 2006. And then I had more of a heavy metal approach to the band to begin with. I had taken songs like Vision Thing and Ribbons and these harder rock songs that the band had recorded, and I had it in my head that the band was almost a metal band, and I started to play in more of a metal style, which I then realized was incorrect for the band. And the band was a lot more about showing restraint in your playing and your performance and your composition, about being selective, about it was much more effective in the Sisters of Mercy to stand on the stage with one foot on the monitor, playing one note and just looking out into the audience than it was to be playing a million notes and staring at the fretboard, and which was kind of where I'd been before. So I think having that understanding that less is more, space is important, drama, this is very cinematic, this music, and it's not about just filling the space for the sake of it.
I see. And besides, the stage is really dark for you guys in there. We can clearly see the tapes marking where you
Yeah, those tapes are very helpful. And also my guitar technician has been very kind, and he puts glow in the dark stickers on my guitar so I can see where the frets are correctly, which has been an absolute game changer.
Yes, such a challenge. Any memories from the time you joined the band?
In true Sisters of Mercy style, the whole process was very mysterious. And I was called one day from a number I didn't recognize, and a man said, "We might want you to come and audition to be in our band. We have an American tour lined up. Would you like to come and have a jam with us?" And I said, "Well, what's the band?" "I'm not going to tell you." "Okay, well, what does it sound like?" "I'm not going to tell you." "Okay, sounds great." And I was very skeptical at the time, because it seemed like the man on the end of the phone was quite confident about what he was offering, and yet he couldn't tell me anything about it. I spoke to somebody else who was in the industry at that time who had a lot more experience than me, and this person said sometimes bigger bands will be very secretive about if they are looking for a new member, because they don't want the word to get out that they're missing somebody, which might then affect ticket sales for the upcoming tour. Oh, okay, I never thought of that. And so I went along to this audition, having no idea what I was auditioning for, but just wanted to give it a go. I'd asked the man on the phone, "What are we going to play in the audition?" And he said, "Just play some Jimi Hendrix riffs." Okay. So I remember being on the bus to this audition playing Purple Haze on my guitar. And I got to the audition and there were three people in the room. There was one man with a guitar, one man with a laptop, and one man sitting on a sofa with a woolly hat on because it was winter, a pair of shades and a can of beer. And to begin with, the guy with the guitar would play some riff and I would play it back. I can't read music, but I'm good at picking things up by listening. So I was quite good at playing the riffs back and forth. And after a while, I started to think, this sounds a bit like the Sisters of Mercy's music. And what I recognized in hindsight was that they weren't playing any recorded work. They were playing me new songs that they had not recorded, which was probably another way of disguising who they were. And it's just had a certain feel to it that had a atmosphere of the Sisters of Mercy's music. So I thought I'll take a chance. If it is the Sisters of Mercy, I'm now going to play a famous riff and see if anybody reacts. So sure enough, played on my guitar a famous song by the band, and the man with the shades and the hat and the can of beer said, "That's one of our songs." And I remember that I was so nervous then. I remember looking down and my hands were shaking, and I remember thinking, not only am I in the presence of a band that I greatly admire, I might now be in that band. I have a chance. And I was very, very nervous from that point on. So I was actually quite grateful that they hadn't told me who they were, because I'd gone into the audition with just sheer confidence, almost blasé, like, well, just give it a go, this will be a laugh, not realizing that it was potentially a life-changing experience. And so I left the audition, and a couple of days later, I got a phone call. And at the time, I was working in a convenience store. And I got the phone call, and the man who now I recognized was Andrew Eldritch, and it had been Andrew Eldritch the whole time. The man said to me, "Well, yeah, we think you might be our guy." And it was very British in that sense. It was very kind of like, well, if you might want to do it, possibly it could be a laugh. It wasn't like the American, "Hey man, you're in the band, let's go." It was very British and very underplayed. And that was it. A couple of months later, I was playing the very, very first show with the Sisters of Mercy. It was February the 16th, 2006 in Las Vegas.
Whoa. And thanks. And I can see at least the address for the audition. He told you about it. Now, I'm not going to tell you the band. Where? Okay. What time is the audition? I'm not going to tell you.
Well, actually, no, I wasn't told where it was. I was just told to go to the train station in that particular town. And then to meet the band, a representative. So, part of me was like, am I going to get kidnapped?
Oh, crazy. How it's been work with Kai, the new guitar player? Looks like you guys have a strong friendship. How did he came on board?
We met in the rock scene in London, I think maybe as far back as 2017, 16. I recognized that Kai was a very talented singer, and I used to run a nightclub there called Shot Through the Heart, based on the Bon Jovi song. And what we did is we would play covers of 80s hard rock songs, and it was a club night, it was a celebration. We would do it every month, and I would assemble a core band of very talented London musicians, and we would also have guests come on, different guest guitarists, guest singers, to do these covers. And we built something really good over a couple of years of a nice scene. And our unique selling point was that we didn't just play the most obvious songs. We didn't just play Girls, Girls, Girls by Motley Crue and Living on a Prayer and Alice Cooper Poison. We played those songs, but we also played deep cuts by the same bands, songs you wouldn't expect from those bands, and also bands that were maybe in the lesser known areas of that genre. So bands like Danger Danger, Firehouse, Hardline, Harum Scarum, Winger, bands that we all loved. So as well as it being a great joy for the musicians in the band, because we all loved these, we couldn't believe we were playing these songs, it was also something that got a bit of a following from real hardcore fans of the genre who would come down early to see the first set of when we would play these lesser known songs, Dokken, Lynch Mob, and we would I feel we did it really well. We really put time into all the vocal harmonies and getting the guitar solos exactly right. And then the second half of the set would be more the party tunes, and everybody, when it got busier, and it would be all, it was great. So Kai came down and sang as a guest vocalist a couple of times, and then actually did the whole show on another occasion at very short notice as the lead vocalist, and did a great job. And I remember us doing some Cinderella and Cheap Trick, and it was great. So Kai was always on my radar. And then a couple of years later, Kai asked me to come and co-write a song for Kai's band, Esprit. That they'd written the music for it, just needed a vocal melody and lyrics. And that song is called Dead Zone. And that song I worked on with them in early 2022. It was very significant, that song, because it was written, lyrically, it was written about overcoming my overcoming of alcoholism. I had a problem with alcohol until almost 4 years ago, and I've been sober now for almost 4 years. And I wrote the song about my experiences of the memories of being in alcoholism and fighting to get out of it, and it was a very triumphant song. And again, that song is called Dead Zone, and I'm really proud of it. So again, Kai and I had worked together. I then collaborated on a cover that Kai did of The Trooper, which also featured Tim Ripper Owens, previously of Judas Priest. So we already had a great working relationship, and when it came up that we needed a new guitarist for the Sisters, I thought of Kai, particularly because Kai has a very strong voice as well, and I felt that
for the high notes,
exactly that, and that was what we developed over the last couple of years. I think is a very strong synergy of Kai's range is fantastic. They can sing really low and really high, and singing those really high notes is it brings back the feeling of those backing vocals on More, this Corrosion, Dominion, and particularly Kai does a fantastic version of Temple of Love 92 with the Ofra Haza vocal, which has become a real standout point of the set. So it's been really good. And also Kai has made me sing better. I now have, when I have my monitoring, I have Kai's voice pretty loud because I follow it because it's so good. And there was a time recently where we were both on the same microphone singing, and I almost felt like our voices melded into one sound because we're singing so closely together. So yeah, it's a great friendship. It's a great musical partnership, and I'm really happy that Kai's in the band.
It will be the first time he's playing in Brazil, I guess.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Any plans for recording the new material you've been doing? Is there a reason you don't release them?
Well, as you imagine, Hafa, I get this question quite a lot, so I have a stock.
Sorry, but
it's okay. It's a question people want to know, and I appreciate it. So the reason why I'm saying that I get this question a lot is I've prepared a stock politician's answer for it.
Cool.
Which is, there's no plans to make a new record. There's no plans not to make a new record. So we'll see what happens.
Well, Mr. Christo, thank you so much for your time. Such a pleasure. Thanks again, and hope you have a wonderful time here in Brazil in a few months. Okay?
Obrigado.
Kiss FM.
Não deixe o rock sair de você.